I think this is our last one for town meeting.
It is.
It is.
All right.
Town
Unless you
meeting
wanna have a
again
special one.
is May
Sixth.
May 6th.
May 6th. Oh, it's right here on my agenda.
My daughter's birthday.
They were always ahead of me. So thanks for
25?
coming. The first thing on the agenda is to approve the meeting minutes of March 21st.
Move to approve?
Thank
Second.
you. Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay. The second thing is accept the meeting minutes of April 4th for review.
So moved.
Thanks, Mo.
Second?
Thanks, Scott. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay. So review and vote on recommendations for the annual town meeting warrant articles.
Yeah, so first things first, the Board of Selectmen met last night. They recommended all of them unanimously. So what you'll recall is that after this meeting, is that after you take your vote, you've already voted on everything else on the budget. I will then compile all of that and put it into a budget book. It'll be called the Finance Committee Recommendation Book. It will go out to print on Friday. It will be back next week because we're going to post for the warrant next Friday. And that way it's 7 days lead time before a town meeting,
Wow.
which is required by law. I know it goes
Tight.
fast.
Tight.
Tight.
Yeah, it does, it goes fast. So, so the votes that you take tonight will also be in that book. And you'll recall that the moderator will say at the end of, when they announce for every article, after you move it and seconded it, they will ask for the recommendation of the Finance Committee. Jan, as chair, will answer that question, and that is based on your votes tonight.
Right.
And then they ask the Board of Selectmen, who have done the same thing they did it last night.
Yep.
So we can do one of two things. We can flip through each page and we can go over it. Many of them you have already seen because some of them are annual ones that you always see Board of Assessor exemptions, for example. And the second is capital budget items you have reviewed in the past. And some of you have already seen the zoning articles as well. So your choice, we can go page by page, or in the back of your packet, the second to the last page is a one-page cheat sheet that we also place in the handbook. And so that way people could follow along in the audience if that's what they want to do at town meeting. And we can go right down this list, and if you are in favor, we'll mark it. Or I can just give like a 1 or 2, 3 second quick overview. If you're okay, you do nothing, or you say hold, then we'll go back and we'll look at it at the end. And we can discuss it in more detail. And we can go back to the packet to look at all the language if we need to. So it's whatever you all prefer.
Any
Whoever's most efficient.
I think the latter works. Right?
going through the
Go
list?
through the, and then we can go back.
All right,
Is
so,
everybody okay with that?
so Article 1 and Article 2 will be what they call a consent article. That means that the moderator will read it or request the selectman will actually read the article or the motion, but they'll do it as a consent article, won't really need a vote. It's just to turn in the annual reports from all the department heads, and also authorizes the town to enter a contract with Mass Highway if Mass Highway does any work in town. Article 3 is the salaries of your elected officials. In essence, you have already voted on this because Article 4 you have already voted on. You voted on your budget last week or last meeting, and all those numbers in there is what you have voted. You voted in essence $44,610,000 budget, and we broke it up from that those categories. So under water revenues of $2.4 million, you already saw the water budget. And then we always transfer free cash to offset it. And the EMS is $400,000 every year from police and from fire, from ambulance to offset it as well. So inside that budget is all of your elected salaries, stipends. Number 5 is your annual article through the Board of Assessors, which allows people such as the elderly or the blind to be able to receive exemptions at the maximum level by state law. Article 6 is that we will receive $321,000 from the state, so that way we can use that for any highway, sidewalk, any type of road construction. So you have to vote to actually accept the funds and allow the DPW to use those funds. Articles 7 through 10 will be your CPC articles. You'll recall that Cheryl was here at one time and went over these with you. So Article 7 is your administrative article. that places unused funds into what we call buckets. You remember that there's like a historical bucket, open
Right.
space bucket, an administrative bucket. So the unused portion of the appropriated funds is 69,000. So those funds are just gonna go in there and roll over year. The next ones that will be spent is to pay off the debt in number 8 for Friendship Park. In number 9 for the fish ladder it is gonna be a state match. The state's gonna give us about $285,000 through a grant in order to put a new fish ladder at DPW. And then the veterans are going to use $5,000 to put stones in markings for veterans at our cemeteries. Article 11, we do every single year as well. It is to place money into our long-term health benefits for retirees. It's an unfunded mandate. OPEB is other post-employment benefits.
Is that the one, David, where we have to catch up?
No, this is different.
Different.
Number 12 is your annual article for, we call it as a web task force, but that's West Bridgewater, East Bridgewater, and Bridgewater. Other towns have now joined, but we appropriate $10,000 as more money that comes in through the district attorney's office. I said last night the state, but it's through the DA's office, and they use that for drug enforcement in the local area. Number 13, the police department is a civil service department. Our fire department is not, us police is. As part of the collective bargaining process, the police have agreed to remove themselves from civil service. So if you're not familiar with what civil service is, it's an additional state agency that creates rules and regulations as to how police are hired, how they are promoted, and other elements to it, such as disciplinary action. It makes it difficult because if you want to be a police officer in town, you must take a civil service exam. You then get points if you're a resident. You then get points if you're a veteran. You get points if you are the child of a person who had had a disability while they were in the military. So even if you score high, if you don't have some of those other qualifications, somebody else with a lower score will leapfrog ahead of you. The second part to that is that if you don't live in town, you'll almost never get hired. So if you only want to have people that live in town hired, that's great, but you don't always have a good pool.
Yeah.
And so it really limits your ability to be able to hire hire people. And obviously there's a large push so that way you want to have minorities or you want to have females. And so if you don't have a single female person in town that applies, you are never hiring a female, no matter what you do. By getting out of civil service, it allows us to be able to hire like we do with the fire department, which is we put an application out and we say who wants to be a police officer. And one of the real detriments to the civil service is that if you have a license to carry, and you have maybe been a security officer and you have done a whole bunch of training and you even went to the police academy to be a police officer and paid out of pocket, you get 0 credit for that under the civil service exam. So somebody else who just lives in town will score higher than the person that doesn't live in town, even though the other person did all of that as an effort. So it really hurts our recruiting ability, and the police department recognizes that. So many towns, in fact, over the past year, about 25 towns have voted to remove themselves from civil service, to give themselves the ability to be able to have a better recruitment, recruitment pool,
I
correct.
didn't know we could
So-
opt out.
We can opt out, but only with the union's permission and approval.
Okay.
So the union agreed as part of the collective bargaining because those people recognize that it is going to be more difficult in the future to be able to recruit and
To
retain
have qualified
people.
people.
Right.
So,
Wow, that's a real education. I
so
had
we
no idea
voted-
about that.
yeah, we voted that in, I believe, it's either 1927 or 1934. It was voted in town. It was voted in at town meeting, and therefore state law is the way you went in is the way you come out. So it's just a town meeting vote. And again, there'll be a letter from the union at town meeting explaining that they're in favor of it.
Good.
Article 14 is hopefully is a good one that everybody will be happy. We're going to move
Yay.
$500,000 into our stabilization account. And all of these now, you're going to see it coming from our free cash. Free cash, we generated about $3.8 million this past year. Free cash is generated basically from three sources. It is amounts of money that we did not anticipate. So for example, our receipts are higher. I said at a recent meeting, our investment income is much higher because money just sits in the bank. We're getting more money
Right.
because rates are higher.
Yeah.
It hurts in many other areas, but in that one it's good. The other is that when we have new growth. So somebody comes into town, they build something, that was taxes that we did not anticipate. And the third one is unspent dollars. So for example, I always say in the benefits line, I am required by law to make sure that everybody who wants health insurance gets health insurance.
Right.
So I budget for everybody health, but obviously not everybody signs up. So the difference of that amount rolls over, doesn't get spent on other categories. It just gets saved into a pool and it collects into this thing what the town calls is free cash.
Yeah.
The state calls this free cash. It really should just be net surplus or available additional funds, but that's what they call it. So we generated 3.8 million, which is much higher than the norm. You recall a handful of years ago, there was an issue with paying for raises in town, and we took $462,000 out of stabilization. And so this is our attempt to put that money back in.
Is this gonna help our bond rating?
This particular one won't, but we have helped it over the years. So when I got here in 2013, your bond rating was A1. We only had $11,000 in stabilization. We are now a AA community, and we are, with this $500,000, we'll have about 3.2 million. So we've got 11 grand to 3.2 million. The goal is to try to be at 10% of your operating budget. You'll see you approved 44 million as an operating budget. So we have about $1 million to go, but I will tell you we're in a better place than most other towns. It's 7.5%.
That's stabilization.
That'll be our stabilization.
Where are we on free cash, or will we be?
So once, assuming all of this is spent, that's on here, we will have spent 3.2 million. You'll see that on the bottom, under that category, which means that you'll have about $600,000 left over, which will roll over year. You know, that's done on purpose, because if next year turns out to be a tough year, we want to make sure that we have available funds. If next year turns out to be a good year, then that just means that we're $600,000 ahead.
Yeah. So the stabilization funds, it's kind of a rainy day fund, right?
Exactly.
And do you have to go to town meeting to spend that, remind me?
Yes.
You do?
Yeah.
Yep, so that money goes in. It cannot be appropriated without town meeting approval, and it requires 2/3 approval to spend. So it's a higher bar because it's meant to be there and only used when you really need it. The next account, 2167. So this is money that started out a handful of years ago. It is a fee that everybody pays when you use either a Uber, Lyft, or the equivalent. So that number represents the amount of people over the past 12 months in West Bridgewater that used a car sharing service. That money gets transferred back from the state to the local towns and must be placed into an account that is infrastructure or transportation related. So we place it into our sidewalk road construction fund. And then the next one, we're just gonna take $300,000 of free cash and put it into the exact same fund. The next one, number 17, and a handful after that will be all of your capital budget items. Again, you have seen these. The digital sign for $48,500 from the town clerk, $318,000 for the street sweeper for DPW, $99,000 for a plow truck for DPW, an exhaust system at the DPW facility for $19,000.
Oh, geez, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I apologize.
That's okay.
$250,000 for a culvert on Grant Street. To add a lift at the DPW department is $11,000. A police car for the police department. A couple of items under fire, which is the Jaws of Life and protective equipment. New flooring at the Council on Aging. And 2 for the school department. One is for Chromebooks and the other one is for copiers. You'll see that they're out of order at that point. On the left-hand side, you'll see the school one at 28. You'll jump down to the bottom and you'll see the water department. So the water department capital budget items then are a couple of utility trailers, a lawnmower, and the water treatment plant. The first three are all out of their water surplus, which is their equivalent of free cash. Their free cash at the beginning was certified at $844,000. That is money that was unspent from their previous year's budget, or the fact that they brought in more money.
More money than.
So it's a combination of the two. So they had 840,000, and you will see out of that money, they are spending 38,000. So you know there's about $800,000 left over. The $10 million for the treatment plan will clearly have to be borrowed.
That's an actual building, is that right? I've never seen one. Is it a building or just?
I believe it'll be either a retrofitted building or a brand new building.
Okay.
We will then go back up to number 33. So these other ones here do not have financial dollars attached to them
Right.
because they're not part of the actual budget. But that doesn't mean that they may not have a financial impact somewhere. So number 33 is that the Board of Selectmen are looking to change their name from being called Board of Selectmen to Select Board. 34 is that we currently have an appointed tree warden, which is an original statutory requirement of a tree warden to be either appointed or elected. Many, many years ago, probably 200 years ago, the town voted to have it be an appointed position. I'm sorry, to be an elected position. That worked for us for many decades. Chris Iantelli has been the tree warden the last 30 years, but he was also the forestry superintendent or the DPW director. Excuse me, and the person before that fulfilled that role for 30 years as the forestry superintendent. So it made sense. You had a tree warden that also had a budget and staff to do the work. Excuse me, with the retirement of Chris, our fear is that we have a tree warden that gets elected, and if there's potential conflict between that person and what the DPW department may want to do. And we're not looking to have conflict. We want to try to have as efficiency as possible. So it makes much more sense that the selectmen should actually appoint that person and appoint a person that has a budget and a staff. So if we want to remove a tree or plant a tree, we can do it. The tree warden only has a $400 budget, and there's no paid stipend to that person. So there's nothing that that person can actually do without a budget in a department. And my guess is nobody's looking to create another department
No.
and fund it.
Right.
So it just makes much more sense from an efficiency standpoint to have this person appointed by the board. Article 35, you'll see a couple of general bylaws. General bylaws to allow mobile food trucks to be an allowed use in town. And then also to amend the mobile home park regulations, which will have an effect as to what the storage sheds size will be. They're looking to increase the minimum and the maximum. So I think it's 5 feet to 8 feet to something like 6 feet to 10 feet.
So we had no mobile food truck bylaws at all before, I take it?
As of right now, if you want to run a mobile food truck in the town of West Bridgewater, it is not an allowed use. So if you believe that you would like to see mobile food trucks be able to do business in town, you would be in favor. If you do not want to have mobile food trucks be doing business and work in West Bridgewater, then you would vote against.
Okay.
So as an example, on our park day, if somebody wanted to bring a food truck to the park day, it would not be allowed presently.
It is not allowed presently.
Oh,
Oh, I didn't know that.
interesting.
Don't they have food trucks at Park Day?
I think
So-
I've gone to a few.
Yeah. So,
YA.
so the selectmen have a transient vendor policy.
Ah.
So under that transient vendor policy, they will allow on a specific day for a specific reason.
So it's a specific
Correct. But we have had
license for that one time.
for that one day or that one
Okay.
time. So under
As opposed to this would be sort of ongoing, right?
correct. So I know, for example, one vendor has contacted me. They spent $40,000 on their truck. They want to make an investment, and they really want to do business in a town that allows it. Well, many other towns don't. Some do. And West Bridgewater is one of the towns that they had targeted to wanting to do business in. But they didn't want to spend $40,000 if we're only going to be allowed to do it once a year. So West Bridgewater cannot be the town that they're targeting unless this passes.
I
Right.
see.
But there's got to be an impact on restaurants in
Restaurants.
town. You know, having food trucks, right? Especially if you have them all the
Probably
time,
wouldn't, no.
frequently. You would think that that would impact or take some business away from the restaurants. brick and mortar ones.
I think it's a reasonable argument to make that if you
Sorry.
have a food truck, and I'll just make this up, that is selling, say, burgers, that you can only eat one burger in a day, or go to have a burger, maybe you can eat two. But my point is that it is a reasonable argument to make that the consumer will have more choices, which will clearly have an impact on the existing business. So if that's good, that's good. If that's bad, that's bad. It's a decision you have to make.
Where would they be able to, or would they be restricted to setting up shop in certain locations? Like for square footage areas, it has to be so big or so wide, you know what I mean? Not to affect traffic, parking lots, whatever.
So to my knowledge, that has not been clearly defined.
Oh.
That's why this is a general bylaw. When you start defining all of those other elements, now it's a zoning bylaw. So this is only being proposed as a general bylaw to allow its use. It would be allowed through the Board of Health, which would have to then create rules and regulations pertaining to that.
Okay. So if this passes, it goes to the Board of Health and they define all that.
I would say so. There is a provision in here that under certain circumstances, if they want to do a transient vendor license to the Board of Selectmen, they could do that as well. And if that's what gets triggered, the Board of Selectmen will have to create additional rules and regulations around that, or choose not to. Like, for example, our current transient vendor doesn't define square footage, but it's limited to only 6 times per year. So, they have to give us a layout, they give us a fee, they explain what they're doing. The selectmen can choose to say yes or no, but at no time can they do more than 6 in one calendar year. This here is not really that's not really the intent of this. The intent of this is more for somebody to be able to use a place in a more consistent basis. I do believe in the proposed regulations, it's not going to allow it to stay overnight. So they are going to have to leave by a certain time, and then if they want to do it multiple days, they would have to come back.
6 a.m. to 12 a.m.
Interesting.
Okay.
There's some interesting food trucks out there.
The next one is zoning bylaws. These will require 2/3 for an approval, so the bar is a little bit higher for passage. The first one, 37, is that a contractor's yard right now is allowed in all zoning in the town of West Bridgewater, and we're looking to not have it be allowed in residential areas. The next one is digital signs right now are allowed in all zoning, again, looking to not allow it in general residential areas.
Okay.
39 is to allow mixed use in the business zone. So right now, we do not allow mixed use. So the real story.
I don't know what the definition of mixed use is. I'm sorry for my ignorance.
No, that's okay. It's to allow a commercial entity and a residential entity to be within the same footprint of a building.
Oh.
So you'll think about more like in a city area, like you'll have a barber shop on level 1, and you
And
might have
people live
apartments
above it or
on.
something. Yeah.
That's correct.
I got it.
And the whole intent of it originally, dating back many decades, was that you would have a walking center of town. So you would have people that live there that could get out and walk to restaurants and walk back. We don't really have that set up. However, this came to fruition when they permitted the dental building over on Route 106. They were looking to be able to do it as mixed use. So they could have commercial on the first floor and residential on the second floor. And that was not allowed. And because it's not allowed anywhere in town, they were looking to try to allow it in town, but in the business area.
And so what area specifically was this gonna be allowed, like just along 106
So
and 28?
Yes, so our business zone, there is a couple of exceptions, but almost all of our business zone is within 500 feet within Route 106 and Route 28. So from the Brockton border down to the Bridgewater border on Route 28, go 500 feet deep. And then on Route 106, from the eastern line to the East Bridgewater line, go 500 feet deep. That is mostly what our business zone is. I think there's one other little
Manley Street.
pocket. Well, Manley is industrial.
Oh, industrial.
So this would not be allowed in the industrial area. This would only be allowed in the business area. Number 40 is to allow accessory dwelling units. I'm going to call these more like in-laws. So we do not allow by right now to, if you have a house, to be able to add an additional unit attached to your building to be able to have family or in-laws be able to move in. It's a pretty detailed bylaw. It's 5 or 6 pages long. Its intent is really to be more of an in-law apartment type of setting. It's 900 square feet or less, and it defines what its entrances are, some other elements to it as well.
So it has to be attached. It's
It
not
has
a
to be
granny
attached.
dwelling out back someplace or.
Correct. It must be attached to a single-family property.
Does it restrict who can live in it?
I don't recall that answer. I think the intent is to do it as an in-law.
These are very interesting things, and I think there's a lot of questions I would have about them before I could be knowledgeable.
Um,
So for us, for the purposes of this meeting and this group, we just either recommend it or don't, right?
Can we
Or
change it
refer to
to
the
Or if
reverse
it,
vote?
only if
Yeah.
it has a financial interest, right?
I don't know that we're restricted to that, but I think we usually kind of use that as a guideline to say, we'll refer to the voters because there's really no financial impact, but some of these
But these do have
have.
financial
Yeah.
impact to the town.
Yeah, so I think in this case, we would, we can refer, but likely either recommend or not, right? That's really
I
the
think
role
so.
here, right?
That's correct. So you really have 3 options: to recommend for, recommend against, or refer to
Or
voters.
refer, yeah.
And it can be split. We don't have to be unanimous, right?
Oh, no, you guys have been split in the past. Number 41 is your water resource protection area. So this came to light this past year. So the intent of our bylaw says the following, is that if you want a special permit in town, you almost always go to the zoning board of appeals, the ZBA. The exception to that is if you want a special permit in the water resource district area, which is basically where Manly is in the industrial area. That's where a lot of our water aquifers are. So the original intent of the bylaw was that if you are going to do any business in the water resource district area, is that you get permitted through the planning board. That was the intent. However, it was poorly written. And this past year, we had an attorney who challenged us, and upon looking at it in further detail, we believe his interpretation is correct. And the interpretation, the way it was written, not intended, says that you go to the ZBA to get a special permit, and then you go to the planning board to get a special permit, or else you can't do business in the water resource district area. And the problem with that is that if you're a developer and you go before the ZBA, and the ZBA says, hey, we want to see this plan, that plan, you may have to hire an engineer, you incur $8,000, $10,000, $12,000 worth of costs. The ZBA is happy, they approve it. Well, the planning board may have a different opinion. And now you go there and they want you to incur additional costs, so they have a different change, or they want to
Right,
amend
yeah.
something. So it's really unfair to the developer, and quite frankly, it's unfair to the town because we don't have a consistent message. So all we're looking to do here is to say that if you are in the water resource district area, we are making it crystal clear what the original intent of the bylaw was. You go to the planning board to get a special permit. That's all we're doing.
So just one body instead of two.
Exactly. Yep. And that was the original intent of the language. Number 42. We recognize that there are one statute that is older and one statute that's new about development that is outside the control of the town. One is the 40B laws. We all know what that is. If you want more details, we'll get into it. The newest one is what they're referring to is the MBTA zoning act, which is going to, again, we've talked about that at this committee level, is right now we're going to be required to zone next year for a minimum of 145 apartments or dwellings to be built by right. Clearly, that's going to have an impact. Right? And so Jeff has led this from the selectmen level, and the Board of Selectmen are, as a group, are entirely behind him. He said what he's looking to do is to say, okay, if we can't stop what the state is mandating, then what can we do on our end to be able to try to curtail development? So minimum square foot residential lots right now at 30,000 square feet, say 3/4 of an acre. He's looking to increase that to 1 acre. So if you own 1 acre of land, you will be able to build a home on it moving forward. If you own 3/4 of an acre of land right now, you would not be able to build a home on it because you would be a non-conforming lot.
Is the state gonna go along with that?
They don't have an issue, they have no jurisdiction on this.
Oh.
Now, I will tell you that all of our zoning bylaws have to be approved by the Attorney General's office. This is within the law, but I do expect that they're not going to be happy because it is going to be the antithesis of what they're trying to do, because they're trying to minimize square feet
Exactly.
because they want to have more development. But look, you guys have local control. This is your town. You have the ability to do this. The second part to that is that you can build right now a multi-dwelling on 60,000 square feet in town, say an acre and a half, and they're looking to increase that to 75,000, basically to keep the range about the same between the two. In their thought process, Jeff specifically, but the board generally, is to say, what can we do that's reasonable that is going to try to hinder some development in the future? Because I'm sure you all know, very few people are happy with the amount of development in town. And we receive the complaints all the time at the selectmen's level saying, do something about it. And you're powerless,
Yeah.
right? But this is one tool that is in the kit. So that is the proposal from the board.
It will certainly help from a conservation commission approach too. Makes it a lot easier. But this isn't affordable.
It still doesn't address the mandate that really worries me. That, well, you've been watching the news with what's going on in Milton,
Oh, yeah.
and I just don't want the hammer to come down from the state. I just don't want them, I don't want to attract their attention.
Yeah. So there's, to use your term, I cannot conceive of a hammer that can come down on us as a result of this. However, it doesn't mean it won't attract their attention.
Yes.
But a year from now, there is no reason why that we can do multiple things at once. If the town can still accept this and approve it, and the town can still accept and approve the MBTA zoning a year from now. This doesn't prevent that.
Okay, so we have still a year.
Yeah, we have until 2025.
Oh, okay. I didn't know.
So we will be doing it next year. We have not determined exactly where we want to place it or recommend to the town that we place it yet. But we will be coming to town with that next year.
Okay.
And again, that circumvents any
Right.
of these other rules and laws when it comes to development. So that this here will have no impact on the MBTA zoning that will have to be voted on a year from now.
Okay.
With a 40B development though, all of this would be waived off.
What is this footnote? Requirements apply to each manufactured home lot, 50-acre minimum project site. Is this, so for, like, the elderly housing is manufactured homes, right?
Down the trailer park, I think, yeah.
Where are you?
Right. So they're saying you have to have 50 acres to,
Yeah.
is that right?
Were you reading that?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
that is for your manufactured home park. Excuse me 1 second.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
only referring to here.
Right, that's what I'm asking. So that means like for a place like the senior housing up the street.
That's not manufactured. Those are dwellings. Those are complexes.
Some of them
Seniors.
are, aren't they?
This is more about
On
the
Friendship Drive?
Friendship Drive.
So Friendship Drive is Matfield Woods.
Yeah,
So you've got Matfield Woods and you have Beacon Park.
Right.
So those are manufactured home
right.
facilities.
That's not
Right.
Those
seniors.
fall under here.
Isn't that where the seniors,
No, he's referring to
No,
on Esther Drive,
Esther
Esther
Drive.
Drive.
which is you have 38 senior housing dwelling units.
Those are apartments.
Those are under the
Right,
housing
exactly.
authority.
no, those, yeah, no, I was talking about the
Mobile home
mobile
parks,
home,
yep.
which is seniors, right? Oh, it's all seniors.
It's
isn't it?
55 and over.
55 and over,
Okay.
right? Okay,
That's where I got confused.
yeah, sorry.
Nice.
Um,
Bite your tongue.
that's what we're,
This would be a
I'm
new
over that
site, I
limit.
think, isn't it? This would be a new development, 50.
MTG defines it differently.
So you have
55 and older.
you have a bylaw that passed in 1981, 1982 that prohibits any new mobile home parks from being able to get permitted.
Right.
So,
Oh, really?
yeah.
Okay, so this doesn't even apply then?
Well, again, this table and dimensional,
Technically
yeah, this
speaking.
table and dimensional guide is probably 50 years old.
Yeah,
So it's just referring to what it was at that time.
okay,
The only change on this guide is what's in red.
okay,
Everything else is what's already pre-existing.
okay.
Can I ask a question? How do we reconcile if there is a conflict, which I'm not sure, with regard to this density requirements chart, and then going back to Article 40, where it's talking about the accessory dwelling unit? So if I wanted to build on my lot, even though it's a single family, I'm not looking to build a two-family, but I'm trying to add on to my single family, and I have less than 43,560 square feet. Can I do that?
Yeah, because
Oh.
you'll be considered what they would call now
The
is a
exception.
pre-existing non-conforming lot.
Okay.
So
sorry.
all houses right now that are on
Okay.
30,000 square feet
All right.
are legal. It's a pre-existing
Right.
non-conforming property. But nobody's gonna walk in there and say you have to sell the house or you have to buy
Or you
10,000
can't
square
build.
feet.
You can't add on.
You
Is, I
wouldn't be
guess,
able to
my-
knock the house down and rebuild another home is my guess.
Okay.
I would consult an attorney, Sue.
Do you know any good ones?
I do.
Excellent.
Just ask after it's half done.
Yeah, yeah.
But changes to your existing home
Don't
on
ask for
that
permission.
lot,
Okay,
you would be legal.
awesome. Thank you.
It's just, so it's
Or would be
just-
allowed use.
Got it.
So it's
got it.
just if you have 5 or 10 or whatever acres and you wanna build a new development or something, each one would have to be an acre.
Yeah, so I think the right thing to look at is if you have 4 acres, again, very simplistic because you have septic systems and driveways and all that, right? But if you had 4 acres, right now, you can build 4.5, almost 5 homes. You just do the math.
Right.
If you have 4 acres, if this passes, you can only build 4 homes.
I have 4 acres, but it's not buildable.
Well, that's the problem too. It's
So-
buildable
Everything's
versus-
wet.
Yeah.
But again, if you have 5 acres, you could probably, you're going to be able to build 1 additional home now than you will if this passes.
Yeah.
And the idea is, although it is marginal at best, the idea is what can the board do and show leadership to the town in an attempt to minimize new development
Yes.
going forward. That's what the intent is of
It's
this.
great.
Great.
It's good.
Okay,
And the last one is
3 is a lamp.
Lamppost Lane, which is a subdivision built a couple of years ago. And at this point, the planning board, the fact that they are recommending approval means that they have met all the qualifications.
I don't
to
even know
become an
where that
accepted
is.
road.
I don't
Do
mean to
we-
put you on the spot.
Lamppost Lane is that if you go up South Elm Street,
Yeah.
and you take a left heading towards Scotland, there is a new development in the back there. It's about 4 or 5 homes.
So
Oh, I know where it is.
The-
Okay.
Near Lincoln Street.
Yeah.
do we have this issue where they were deeded and it's private and they have their own
No.
plowing and now we're gonna put them in this is just
Yes.
accepting the road?
That is correct.
Okay.
What's the advantage to the town to taking it on?
The highway money.
That is the only advantage. So yes, on your chapter 90 allocation is that part of that formula is how many miles of road that you have in town.
Oh, I
This is only
remember.
half a mile,
It's
so
not
it might
gonna-
be about 28 cents.
Well, that's
So
what I, yeah.
it won't be a lot more.
But
the-
it is more to plow. I mean, not that it's
But-
a half a mile,
But
but.
the truth of the matter is
Those-
they're $8,000,
those people are
$900,000
paying-
homes.
Yeah,
Big money in
Um,
taxes.
Right.
And,
right.
you know,
Right.
so-
Right.
So,
Right.
remember, every single home at one time had to be every single road at one time had to be accepted
Mm-hmm.
because it was all private at one time.
All right, any questions on any of these? Do we wanna just vote on them all, vote on them one by one?
My questions were answered, so,
Okay.
I'm for voting on
does anybody
all.
have an exception?
But it's, I don't know, I feel like,
kinda
so
felt like a
we
couple
may
of
have
them
some
were-
split votes, right? So should we
Yeah.
just
I
vote on
think-
each one?
I think there'll be a lot of questions at town meeting,
Yeah,
I suspect, but
I don't think we have to do every single one, but I would be
Okay.
curious thoughts of the ones that we haven't gone through. the ones, not the capital budget ones, not the budget, but maybe the later ones that are zoning laws.
The bylaws?
Maybe we look at those ones.
The bylaws?
Yeah,
Yeah,
because I don't think all of them are financial, and I think some of them should be left to the voter.
Yep.
But again, that's my personal opinion, and
yeah,
I
no, I
can
think
be
I
talked
agree
out
with
of
you,
it. It
Scott.
just,
So where do they start? Let's see.
So Article
like,
35.
if you just use the example, let's stay with 42, that just drove us some good interest, right? Changing of the 43.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
like, to me,
acreage.
it's, I don't think that's gonna drive a lot out of the finance committee, so to
Of
me, it would be
revenue.
leave that up, recommend to the voters, or
Yeah.
leave it to the voters, that
Mm.
would be one of my things. But there are other ones that kind of maybe are questionable, that could be, drive some money, but again, they're zoning laws, to me, I feel like they should be up to the voters, but again, that's a single man's
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah, so do we wanna just, take it in parts? So if we go through, I think it would be 32, right there would be the, sort of the budget kind of stuff in terms of like the budget and the warrant articles that relate to spending free cash and those things, right?
Yes.
So if we,
Jump
do
down
we
to,
wanna stop with 32 and say, do we recommend all of these? Do we not recommend? Do we want to take, are there any that we wouldn't recommend, I guess?
I think you're saying from number 1 to 32.
there you
correct.
go, yeah.
Yeah,
I read it.
I think I'm good with all that.
Yeah.
does anybody have any?
No.
Okay, so can we get a motion to recommend 1 through 32?
I'll make it, okay.
Second,
Well, okay. I'll make the recommendation, 1 through 32,
That we
that
recommend?
we recommend.
And a
second,
second, okay. Can we do it this way?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. All those in favor of recommending Articles 1 through 32 to the town?
Aye.
Aye.
aye,
Anybody opposed?
No.
Okay, so we got to do those. So now if we start with the bylaws, so bylaw 33 is really just changing the name of the select board. Do we want to recommend, not recommend, or refer to voters?
Personally recommend.
Yeah, recommend. There's nothing.
Nothing to do
Okay,
with
so
it.
do we have a motion to recommend that?
motion to recommend Article 33.
Okay.
Second.
I'm sorry, it isn't 30.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It is, yes,
You got
okay.
it.
And
Yep.
then Scott, you seconded it?
Yes, ma'am.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, so that's all of us, so that's that one. 34 is to make the tree warden an appointed position. Do we wanna recommend, not recommend, or refer to voters on this one? This really, it's not
Voters.
really
I
any
would recommend.
budget impact, but
Recommend
Yeah,
voters.
recommend to the voters.
recommend. Do we all feel
Yeah.
that way? Okay, so, do I have a motion?
Motion to recommend Article 34 to the town voters.
Okay,
Second.
thank you. So, Scott, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, so that's unanimous. Article 35, is around the food trucks. So again, we don't allow them in town really, for all intents and purposes, they're really not allowed, on an exception basis. So this would just allow them,
Right.
and then the Board of Health would have to come up with all the rules around that.
Right.
So do we feel we want to recommend, not recommend, or refer to voters on this one?
Refer to voters.
I would say,
Voters,
Refer to voters.
Yeah.
Do we all agree on that?
yes.
Yes.
Okay. We're going to refer this
make a
one to
motion
voters.
to refer to voters.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor of recommending, referring to the voters on Article 35?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, so that's unanimous. What's the next one?
Mobile home,
30,
36.
did I skip 36?
Yep.
It's at the end of the mobile one, so 36.
Oh,
And then
got it.
town laws
Okay.
for mobile
So the
park.
mobile home park, so this is around the shed size, and they're just trying to change the minimum and maximum shed size in the mobile home park.
Hmm.
Over 55. How do we feel about this one? I kind of think this is more to
Voters.
refer to voters, right?
Yeah.
That's what we
You
refer to
guys
voters.
agree?
Yeah,
I believe,
Okay, so do we have a motion?
I'll move to Article 36 to refer to voters.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, so we get that one done. 37 is around, contractor yards and restricting them to the
I
business?
think
Is it the
definitely
business district?
voters, yeah.
To be clear, they would still be allowed in the industrial area and the business area, not going to be allowed in the residential area.
I'm all in favor of that, but from a finance committee perspective, do we want to recommend, not recommend, or refer to voters? Refer to voters.
That's
Okay.
37.
37, yeah.
Okay, I'll move that we refer Article 37 to the voters.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Scott. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, so we're gonna refer that one unanimously. 38 is keeping, I think, digital signs out of the residential areas.
Definitely.
Refer to voters.
Refer to voters? Okay.
I'll make the motion to refer Article 38 to the voters.
Thanks, Scott.
Second.
Thanks, Sue. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed to that? Okay. Cruising right through.
Mhm.
That was 38. Where's 39? Okay, so 39, I didn't remember these pages. This is around the mixed use. So allowing those, law offices on the first floor, residential on the second floor kind of thing in our business district.
Prefer to
Sort of
voters.
my purview, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, do we want to refer this to voters, or do we want to
I
recommend
believe
it?
so.
Yeah.
I would.
Refer it?
Yep.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
And move to refer to voters Article 39.
Thank you.
Second.
Thanks. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, we got through that one. We're gonna refer 39 to the voters. 40,
Same.
this is around the in-law apartments, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
It's a lot of pages.
Voters.
just thinking from a financial perspective, permit fees. I don't know.
It would
What would
increase the
difference
tax
between the
revenue
first one
from
and
an
the two?
existing dwelling.
That's true.
Because it would be by square footage or.
Yeah, it would just be allowing it, to occur, right? I don't know. Do you guys wanna refer this, recommend it?
I could recommend
I
it.
originally was going to voters, but I mean, if you think there's a financial impact,
Yeah.
that's where I think.
Well, I
do
do.
belong.
I mean, I think there is. I don't know how substantial, but I think there is somewhat,
Yeah, I
right?
don't,
So this is 40?
This is 40, yeah. So it's really allowing you to add up to 900 square feet to your existing dwelling, presumably for like an in-law.
But that would be obviously limited by setbacks and
Yeah, all
septic
the other,
and
yeah.
all the other things. So I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't think it really has much to do with us.
With us, yeah. Any strong feelings?
Not really. No.
Okay, so what's the motion?
Move to recommend Article 40 to the voters.
Refer it to the voters?
Yep.
Okay,
Move second. Sorry, he moved it, right?
thank you. Thank you, Sue.
Mhm.
All those in favor of referring this to voters for
Aye.
their
Aye.
input?
all right.
Okay. 41 is around permits in the water resource district, I guess we call it. Yeah, this I feel like we just refer, right? Do you guys agree? Refer this to voters?
Yes, I would
Do you have a
agree.
motion for
Yeah.
that?
Motion to refer Article 41 to the voters.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That one.
Two.
Yeah, did I miss it? 41. That's a long one.
40, yeah, that is very long.
Yeah.
42, here we go. Oh, this is around minimum
Yeah.
lot
Yeah.
sizes.
Yeah.
Again,
This
do
was my
we
example to move to the voters.
refer to the
That's where you
voters?
started. Yep.
So I'll recommend to move Article 42 to the voters.
Refer it to them,
Refer it to the
right?
voters, yes.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed to that? Okay. And the last one is around, Lamp Post Lane being accepted as a street, I guess, right?
Guess
This
we
one,
could,
I don't know, this one I feel like we just recommend or not.
yeah, we
because-
could
Might as
recommend
well
it.
rec-
Yeah,
just adding another
do I have a motion?
motion to, motion to recommend approval of Article 43.
Thank you,
Second.
thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed to that one? We can do that pretty well.
You did
Thanks,
great.
everybody. Thank you for your detailed explanations, and
You're welcome.
you always know what's going on, Dave. It's always good. All right, so, I do have to admit, I thought I had 2 more weeks on this, so I did
I was gonna say, I didn't get an email, so this is
No,
the
I
first I'm
didn't.
seeing
I
it.
did it
I'm
on
like, shoot, did I miss
Wednesday.
an email?
Wednesday night, so I will give you a few minutes to review it and let me know what you think. Apologies for that. I was like, David, when do I have to have this? He's like, tomorrow morning. I'm like, oh no.
Copy paste last.
Yeah, so, you know, I don't think there's anything controversial, but please
Yeah,
read
it
it
would
and
only
let me
be the
know.
numbers. They look okay. Did you decide, Dave, whether you're gonna do your presentation?
So we discussed at the selectmen's meeting last night. And so I'm gonna turn in a presentation at their next meeting on May 1st. And I think a final decision will be made, but I think the board is leaning towards me having doing a bunch of presentations.
I think it's good.
Great idea. Yeah, you're stating facts here, which, I mean, you just,
Yeah,
there's
I
no
mean, you know,
opinion or anything being voiced, you're just stating
yeah,
the facts as they are.
try to be
I was just
factual.
reading it, I don't know how you
Good
read it so
job.
fast.
Can we get it all
Speed
on,
reading.
you don't have a limit, right?
I did not.
I'm good.
He's with-
It comes on my phone, it's too small.
I know.
I'm good.
Sorry for not getting it out sooner.
It's fine.
I should have read it earlier.
Okay, so anybody wanna make any changes to it?
No.
I would not be
You
so
would not hurt my
presumptuous.
feelings.
No.
Make a motion
it's
to approve.
Okay,
I'll
Thank
second
you.
it.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
I'm gonna do
Nay.
that one.
Done. All right, and then what else do we have here? Just a pie chart. I like the colors.
Yeah, so I started doing this a handful of years ago. This is all the same information that I presented to you in the executive summary about receipts, tax levy, all of those items. We just do it in a little bit of a more colorful format, and so that way everybody can see as to where we're deriving our revenue from.
Yep.
So again, if you look at the one-page cheat sheet, you'll see in the bottom is that we're basically going to spend 57.9 million, and you'll see on the bottom of this revenue, it's 57.9 million. So that way we all know it ties out together, so we can afford the budget.
Did we not do snow, or do we do snow later? We do snow in the summer.
You do. So this will be in your, I present this to you because I'll place this in that book. And again, the book says Finance Committee recommendations or Finance Committee handbook. So I don't want you to see it for the first time when it's really your book. So I'm giving you guys a copy of it now.
Thank you.
What's a cherry sheet charge again, Dave?
So those are state gives us state aid, but they also charge us for certain functions as well. So some of this goes to, Plymouth County is a charge, retired teachers for their pensions is a charge. Yes.
You mean just to be part of Plymouth County, or the Plymouth County benefits?
No, Plymouth County is, every municipality, it's 27 in Plymouth County. Every community pays a fee to Plymouth County, and that's how Plymouth County conducts its business.
Was this cherry sheet money more or less than last year?
It is.
I can't remember, yeah.
So there's, the receipts are up year over year, and the charges are about the same year over year.
But the net, the aid, cherry sheet aid of 921, is that pretty much,
Well,
do you recall?
So,
That's from the state, right?
so the cherry sheet aid of $921,000.
Yeah,
This number here is up 3% year over year,
okay.
and the educational reform is up about $400,000, or about 6% 4% year over year.
Okay.
So they give us 921 and take back 911?
Is
Am I reading that right?
In essence, yes, on
Sure
that
looks
part.
that way.
Okay.
It was we have a select woman here, so she knows, but I brought it to the attention of the board last night that there was a lot to do over the last couple of years about the Student Opportunities Act passed in 2019, that the legislature was going to fund education at a higher level, which they are. The numbers are definitely increasing, but they are reducing the amount that is coming in other aid.
Yeah.
So, to me, it's just a political show game. It
Yes.
sells good from a
Rob Peter to
political
people.
but-
I think they used to call that, right?
Yeah.
But in the end, our net aid is increasing year over year.
Okay.
As our expenses.
Yeah,
Of course.
right.
3%.
Okay. Do we have to do anything with this, or it's
Nope.
just FYI?
Just letting you know.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. You guys always do such a nice job on this.
Thank you.
Thank your team upstairs
I shall.
for all their support. Yeah, we couldn't do this without you guys.
Absolutely not.
So, town meeting, May 6th, 6 PM, be there or be square.
Yeah, so correct. Remember, I will post you for a meeting at 5:30. So you're gonna wanna get there 5:15 to 5:30. I will post you for that time. There is nothing normally scheduled for it, but I just post you so that way there is
In case we
never,
have something to talk
in
about.
case there's something you need to discuss, some last minute issue pertaining to town meeting, therefore there's no open meeting law violation or concern. I do the same thing for the Board of Selectmen.
Okay.
Not every town does it that way, but I just always do it, just a belt and suspender it. And it just gives you the final flexibility in case something comes up between now and then.
Okay, yep, no, that makes sense.
Okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
Second?
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Anybody opposed?
One day I'm gonna look close.
We're out.
All right.